language and don't use metaphysical terms, or are not accustomed to it, or perhaps are not even comfortable with it, regardless of your language and how you articulate it, people feel it, and that's the key thing, feeling it. And that has grown and grown. And one of the reasons, there's two factors. The first one is that I think there is a natural energetic movement of consciousness that goes around in cycles, and we're nearing a shift point at the moment, and it's like a curve on a graph. It's not a switch that's thrown, it's a curve on a graph, and we're nearing the peak of that curve. And at those moments, the tendency for people to wake themselves up and have courage and make changes is much more elevated than normal. And these things come around in, various incremental millennial cycles, and we're at another one now, another seasonal change. The seasons, 4 seasonal changes every year, unless you live in California, obviously. But apart from that, there are proper seasonal changes on the galactic scale, and they change the way the sun works, the way the energies interrelate between the planetary bodies, the way the archetypes resonate in the collective memory, the way physically the atomic structure is held together, and the way consciousness plays between those things. So this field, this like Akashic field, this quantum vacuum, this substrata, this plenum is changing and evolving just like an organism. And that happens, and we're at a very pivotal point now as the shift is upon us. So that's a metaphysical movement, we might say. In conjunction with that, the other factor that I think is affecting these things is that the old hierarchy, i.e. the elites who have controlled things on Earth the last few thousand years, perhaps a lot longer, are struggling at the moment. They're really struggling. And over the last 5 years, specifically the last 5 years, I have noted a very definite dislocation of their power base. And I've looked at the way that's affected the way they do things and what sort of countermeasures they've put out there to compensate for their inadequacies. And so that leads me to the conclusion that right now, in July 2011, we can say that a simple truth is upon us, which is the control system is beginning to break down. It's not working very well anymore. And the cracks that they've been sort of papering over are so large, such huge chasms that they can't just paper over them anymore. And people can see those cracks, and people don't believe in Obama and Cameron and Merkel and Netanyahu and all the rest of them in quite the same way that they used to do. Of course, there's still legions of, ignorant population out there who lap it up because they don't know any better. But for anyone who's taken the time to sort of scratch under the surface a little bit and actually look into it, politically or philosophically, whichever, it becomes pretty obvious it's a sort of dead game, really. It's a game that's run out of players, and it doesn't function properly anymore. And it's no use. There is no activist, political, revolutionary systems of solution within that. It's something completely different. And because they're very clever, this old hierarchy, they confuse us by giving us fake leaks and fake hackers and fake mavericks and fake new hopes. And that confuses a lot of people. So they think that various people who come into the mediaplex who look like naughty boys or naughty girls are like heroes and are going to help us change things. And that is just another fake thing. It doesn't work like that. But the whole game from top to bottom has to be changed. So they're just desperately clinging on to whatever remnants of control they have left, because really their control is based on people controlling themselves, and that's the thing that's beginning to falter. That isn't working as well as it used to do. So they ramp it up and they get silly with, the violence and aggression that's threatened. But actually, people are so sort of desensitized to it. It's sort of backfired now. And you're thinking, well, whatever, shoot me, kill me, burn the place down, couple asteroids at the Earth, all, piss off into space, whatever, just bring it down. And a lot of people are like, we're sick of it. If you're going to do something, do it.
Yeah.
Because this is rubbish. to do something better. And people aren't interested in the Casey Anthony trial. That's not captivating the American public. No one's bothered about that. The only people bothered about what the hot news of the day is are the people directly affected by it. What people want is authenticity, and is to live in a real way, and to live in a creative way, in a loving way, in a dynamic way, in a humorous way. You know, they want all those things. And the media is not able to provide that. And so the only option for a lot of people is to sedate themselves with television and booze and drugs and, you know, junk food and what have you. And we all do it a little bit, but a lot of people do it in a very chronic way, in a very self-harming way. And even those people are coming to wake up to think this isn't really a very good way of behaving anymore. So I think you take that organic movement of natural energy, increasing its frequency of vibration, just in the same way that a sound wave or a light wave would increase its frequency to give us a different pitch or a different color. So the frequency of consciousness moves, and the Mayans have mapped this a long time ago, quite accurately in my view. Add to that the synthetic collapse of the control system and of all these shenanigans and all this framework of containment. The fact that people aren't buying that anymore and they're less afraid of it is adding to this waking up. And it's a small number of people in my observation. We're not talking about a global tidal flow of billions of people waking up. I don't think it works like that, and I don't think it needs to work like that. I think what we're talking about is the certain critical mass, which is perhaps reflected in your program title, of course.
Yeah.
And when they wake up, that's adequate for everyone else to plug into.
I'm going to take two questions and try to jumble them up into one. As you mentioned before, you know, the title of our show, the 100th Monkey Theory, and the word transformation, because I got to see your talk, and I'm going to combine the two questions. Where do you think that critical mass is, or at what point do you think that critical mass that we have that transformation? And again, what is real transformation? Because it's not just me changing into a white shirt, and yesterday I had a black shirt.
No, although that is a transformation, but it's a very mundane one, but that is a transformation. Everything all the time is transforming, isn't it, really?
Right.
Our bodies transform moment by moment. The sun transforms, you know, the desk that you sat at. Everything really is transforming all the time, and it's all impermanent. The difference with when we associate the word awakening with transformation is that we're saying, rather than us being deluded by the illusion of permanency, we actually see change, and we own that change, and we claim that change. And in the spiritual traditions that I have studied, some very well-known, like Buddhist and Zen and Taoist and shamanic indigenous North American and European traditions, and other less well-known ones in Europe, secret mystery school traditions and so on, and Hermetica and whatnot. There is a golden thread that runs through a lot of this, which leads me to think that there is really a sort of single source of knowledge, of the secret knowledge, that points to, you know, a lot of different groups reflect this sacred knowledge of how the world is put together and how it works. And they all have their own little cultural icons and fabrics and symbols and smells and incenses and rituals and what have you. And depending on where you live, you might gravitate to an Eastern system or a Western system or a contemporary one or an ancient one. But actually, when you get down to it, the principles of it are all very, very, very much the same. And they center around the fact that there are a number of different kinds of existence, a number of different dimensions or densities or planes or fields, whatever you want to call it. And the quantum physicist and the mystic are getting closer and closer together as the years roll by, and how they actually describe that. The difference is the mystics were doing it about 10,000 years ago, and the physicists have been doing it for about 100 years. So there's a slight catch-up going on. But it helps people. The physics is important because it helps people convince themselves and persuade themselves that this is a real thing. We're not talking